welcome. You're watching ET Now. The show is Startup Central, the first and only daily show in India dedicated to startups and entrepreneurship. I'm Ruchi Bhatia. We have a power-packed show lined up for you over the next 20 minutes. So let's get started. Remember, the U.S. Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross is in India, and what comes in as trade talk by United States once again, the U.S. Secretary of Commerce Wilbur Ross, who's on a visit to India along with 100 US-based companies, came down heavily on the Indian government and talking about their restrictive policies, rephrasing Make America Great Again. Ross said that it was important to make America great again with the cooperation of India. On data localization, Ross said that the policies were restrictive and increases the cost of operating business in India. Before I go across to my colleague Parisha Tyagi, let's get you that bite by Wilbur Ross.
Our goal is to eliminate barriers to U.S. companies operating here, including data localization restrictions that actually weaken data security and increase the cost of doing business. Tariffs for network routers and switches and parts of cellular phones are as high as 20%. In stark contrast, the U.S. rate for these same products exported from India to the U.S. is zero versus 20%. That's not a justified imbalance. These high tariffs undermine India's goal of improving digital access and digital literacy. We applaud India's commitment to addressing some of these barriers once the government is reformed, probably starting in the month of June.
All right, straight talk, as we are calling it, by the U.S. Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross. Let me take it across to my colleague Parisha Tyagi, who's been tracking his meetings here in New Delhi. Yesterday, remember, Wilbur Ross met the Commerce Minister, and today also he of course addressed a whole host of US-based companies. Parisha, this is once again that we've seen, despite the Indian government striking a rather conciliatory note, the US government going ahead with straight talk, so to say, sticking to its stance on key contentious issues. And the biggest of them all, of course, is the data localization norm, even as the data protection bill is in the parliament.
Yes, of course. Data localization has been a contentious issue for these multinational giants for quite some time now. Remember, companies like WhatsApp, Facebook have raised concerns over India's data localization norms, as it not only forces them, it not only mandates them to store data in India, the data of Indian users should be stored locally, but it also raises concerns of an increased cost for them, as a localization of data may also hurt their business model, hurting their revenue. So they have been raising concerns about it, and now it has been backed by the U.S. Commerce Secretary himself. Ross, today addressing the Indo-Pacific Summit, said that India should rethink its stance on data localization norms, as it's hurting U.S. companies by increasing their operational costs. But an important question here remains that isn't India a big enough market to attract foreign investors? Even if the cost of operation goes up by data localization, aren't revenues already lucrative enough to attract more and more US companies? So this remains to be a question. Other than that, we also need to think that what next, given the Indian government's strong stance on data localization, especially after it is also an important part of data protection bill. The government is unlikely to go back on its decision, but the US is also very strongly pushing for the government to rethink this decision. So what next is a crucial question, and this may definitely dent ties for India and US government, but how both the governments go about it now on remains to be seen.
right, Parisha, many thanks for getting in all those details. This is once again that the US government has raised the issue of data localization. Let's discuss this in detail. Joining me on the phone line is Rehan Yar Khan as well as Ashwini Mahajan. Good evening, gentlemen. Many thanks for taking your time out and speaking to us at ET Now. Rehan, let me first come to you. While the companies like Facebook and Google, Amazon have been raising concerns on data localization for a very long time, the Indian government so far had stuck to its stance. The Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross now coming out and saying that the stance that the Indian government is taking is not good enough for them. Is there diplomatic pressure on India now to rethink on the data localization norms?
Yeah, hi. So I certainly looks like there is pressure. You know, the Trade Secretary is coming and talking to us and saying that, hey, you know, we are not happy with this and we would like this revised. Now the question is, are they correct, or are they trying to, you know, just sort of increase business for their own data centers? Because don't forget, a lot of data does reside in the U.S. and data centers is a big industry in the U.S. So are they coming at it from that angle, or are they genuinely worried that you know, their companies like Google, Facebook, YouTube, etc., Netflix will face a lot of hurdles operating in India from this point of view, you know, because of data localization. Now, that is something that needs to be considered. What is very interesting is that the European Union has not insisted on a rule like this. That and as you know, Europe with its GDPR and those kind of things has been extremely, how should I say, aggressive with data policies, and they don't have such a rule in place. It is certainly questionable why India has gone down this direction, something which is very large in China, right? And why they've gone down the route of following China. So we're not sure why India has gone down that route, and it does appear to be receiving pushback now.
All right, let me take that question across with Ashwini Mahajan. Ashwini, the US is calling India's trade policies, especially data localization, restrictive in nature. Do you see the new government, once it comes into place, rethinking on the data localization norms, or perhaps is this something, because a lot of companies have been asked to toe the line, whether it was Google or WhatsApp, you know, the regulators also being involved, or do you see them sticking to their stance, sticking to their guns?
In fact, this policy which came into existence, or policy draft which has come, this has been done after a long-term process of discussions and consultations. And this is not just the issue of increasing cost for the U.S. companies. It's also the issue of giving a level playing field for our e-commerce companies and our other companies. Therefore, every nation has the right to protect its own domestic companies, and this has been. And if U.S. is doing it for their companies, we also have the equal right to protect us, our companies. So it is not just the cost, it's not just the data industry, it's also the issue of giving the level playing field to our people. So data localization is also important for the reason that
Ashwini,
they mine data.
Ashwini, I get your point on that. You are talking about a
And I don't think
Ashwini, I get your point on that. You're talking about a level playing field. Yeah, Ashwini, I get your point on that. You're talking about a level playing field. That's okay. But do you see that coming at the cost of larger investments in India? This is clear diplomatic pressure that has come in from the US this time around. Till yesterday, the press notes that the Commerce Ministry was putting out was rather conciliatory in nature. And now, for the first time, when the Commerce Minister himself was on the dais, these issues being raised by the Commerce Secretary of US. This is nothing else but diplomatic pressure.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. This is a diplomatic pressure, and government is not going to bow down on this. And this has been happening right from the very beginning, when they were putting pressure on us on patent issues, on 3D issue. They were putting pressure on us on 3J issue. They were putting pressure on e-commerce policy. They have been putting pressure on everything, because it is in their interest they are doing it. It is in our interest not to concede, not to accept their such kind of demands, which will hurt our own domestic industry. And this ours is a country, an economy which is attracting investment, and investment will keep on coming because we are a big market. American companies, where they will go, they will have to come to India. We are a market. So these pressures, diplomatic pressures, keep on happening, and I think government will not in any way give in to this.
Absolutely. In fact, Rehan Yar Khan, if I could get you on that, while Ashwini is saying that the government is not going to bow down to pressure of any sort, the counter view really is that you cannot let investments and innovation thrive at the cost of suppressing local companies. We need to guard our own turf, since data is, of course, crucial. But what is the harm if we don't do so? Are we really going the China way, on the other hand, if we go ahead and you know, keep it only very India-centric?
So, first and foremost, right, it has to be understood why we are asking for data localization, and it is not entirely clear, right? So let's say I'm company X, and I keep my data in servers in wherever, in the UK, in the US, Malta, some country, wherever it is cheapest to keep this data, right? Now, what is the downside to that? Is it the downside that the Indian government cannot access that data as and when it wants to? So that is not clear, first and foremost, as to why exactly have they asked for data localization. Number one. Number two, the US, Europe, all these other countries, the position they have is that we are not asking for data localization, so why are you asking for data localization, right? Why are you disengaging from free trade? And creating something specific. So I think these are tough questions which the Indian government has to answer. So it's not going to be so easy to say that, hey, you know, we just want this and we're not going to bow down to this kind of pressure, because don't forget, India is engaged with the US on so many trade issues, strategic issues, investment issues, security issues. So it's not so easy to just turn around and sort of deny a large country like the United States, the European Union, and so on and so forth, especially when it's not entirely clear as to why exactly are they doing it. What is the strong case for data localization? It is not clear that why are they doing it when those countries themselves don't have such a rule. So I think we'll have to see what unfolds.
Right. All right. Rehan Yar Khan as well as Ashwini Mahajan, many thanks for taking your time out and speaking to us on that matter. This was, of course, one of the big issues that has been raised by the US Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross on his visit to India. All right, moving on to our next segment. Remember, it's Akshaya Tritiya Special. We have the co-founder of Caratlane, Mithun Sacheti, who's joining us on this show for more. We're talking about different discounts, offers that Caratlane is offering their customers on Akshaya Tritiya. Sacheti is, of course, also talking about the kind of changes that have taken place after Titan's investment in Caratlane. So let me get started. Mithun, it's Akshaya Tritiya. Thanks for speaking to us at ET Now. What's special at Caratlane this time around in terms of discounts, and what's on offer for customers?
So discounts at Caratlane are a lure for people to obviously come and shop, and festive is a great reason to be shopping for consumers, and discounts just add that little bit more flavor. So it's more like the icing on the cake as well, to get people to shop and enjoy that experience also. What we're looking to do more this Akshaya Tritiya is expand our range from doing a lot of diamond jewelry to a little bit of gold as well also, but in a differentiated gold. Jhanak and Pero are two collections that we launched this year for Akshaya Tritiya, and both have got excellent reviews as well. Our distribution platforms increased. We now have 60 stores across India, and that's really helping us boost our omni strategy as well.
All right, help us understand and give us insights on what a typical Caratlane customer is looking like. What are the price points that people are increasingly shopping for, the age groups? If you could help us understand and give us a sense of that.
Yes, it's actually a very, it's a question we've been trying to understand for quite a few years now. And our realization is that consumers find it easiest, obviously, to buy non-complicated products first. The risk appetite is